The Long Game acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is produced. We would also like to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders listening to this podcast. We would also like to acknowledge that mindfulness is an important and ongoing part of life.
Breathe in, breathe out. When the stakes are high and all eyes are on you, how do you perform to your potential? More than ever, the practice of mindfulness has become a pathway to harnessing potential to drive performance of athletes around the world.
Through the lens of some of Australia's most inspiring athletes and sport professionals, we take a deep dive into the different techniques, tools and life lessons they've learnt along the way.
I'm Ben Robbins, Head of Mental Health and Wellbeing at the St Kilda Football Club.
And I'm Jarryd Roughead. And this is The Long Game, brought to you by AIA Vitality.
At just 24 years of age, Australian boxer and Olympic medalist Harry Garside could be forgiven for being a little rough around the edges. However, his maturity, discipline and philosophies on life tell a completely different story of a young man well beyond his years in so many ways. Ruffy and I absolutely love chatting with Harry, and I hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as we did. Harry first garnered headlines as the ballet dancing boxer, but his unorthodox approach to reaching his peak has yielded the best results. He was the first Australian to win an Olympic medal in boxing in 33 years, was awarded the Commonwealth Games Gold in 2018, and is now undefeated in the ring after turning professional. It's simply extraordinary how Harry has applied himself and tackled life's challenges head on, and I reckon this is only the beginning for this ballet dancing boxer.
All right, here we are with this week's guest for The Long Game, Harry Garside, Australian professional now, boxer. Harry, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, mate. I'm a big Hawkers fan, stoked to be here, and a pleasure to meet you, mate.
Good on you, Harry. Welcome, mate.
Thank you.
So we'll start from the beginning. Ferntree Gully boy. What was childhood like?
Correct you there. I'm actually a Lilydale boy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
We'll
right.
get-
It says I'm
our
born in
notes,
Ferntree Gully.
yes. All right, so Lilydale. I'll
Is
just
that
note that down. Thank
Very
you.
close, but I was born in Ferntree Gully, so it wasn't a complete screw up. But born and bred in Lilydale. Just the boys would be very angry if I didn't.
Yeah, is there a bit of a
didn't correct you
rivalry there, Lilydale, Ferntree Gully?
There is a little bit, of course, in the football, in the Eastern Football League, for sure. But
Yeah.
I'm a Lilydale boy through and through, 3 on 4-0. Born and bred there, youngest of 3 boys. And for me, growing up, it was a good childhood. I mean, I played most sports growing up. I was so grateful that my parents never once said no to playing sport and stuff like that. For me, though, at home, I felt completely different to my 2 older brothers. They were very blokey and very manly. They were always out the back playing with dad and connecting with my dad and what my dad was doing, and I was more connected to my mum and what my mum was doing. And because of that, I felt I never got much respect from my 2 older brothers and my dad. They never once said it, but I just felt that. And for me, I started boxing at the age of 9 in a hope to sort of prove that I was a male and prove that I was a man, and to get respect from my 2 older brothers and my dad. And within a week or 2 of starting boxing, I fell in love with it very quickly. So, and then the rest is sort of history, I guess.
So you said at 9 you started boxing. Now, Lilydale, I'm not sure in the schoolyard or behind the shelter shed or whatnot that the boxing passion started. But, I mean, footy and basketball and cricket and all these sports, how does boxing come about for a boy from Lilydale?
So there's 2 stories, as I mentioned. Like, I felt different to my brothers.
Yep.
So that's definitely one of them. But I honestly think the reason as to why I started it, we watched too many Rocky movies in my household. I just remember the whole family was just around watching the Rocky movies, and my old man's loving it. The 4th Rocky, where Rocky's beating Ivan Drago, the Russian versus America. Like, what a movie. We watched that about 100 times, I reckon. And in that moment, I think in my head, when you're so young, I started thinking, oh, this must be what males do. This must be. And then I started it. I was like, I want to start boxing. I remember Mum was like, she almost had a heart attack. She's like, hey, why do you want to start boxing? You're almost like the whimper of the family, always crying and then sooking and stuff like that. And why can't you go back to playing basketball or something like that? But once I walked into the gym, there's many reasons as to why I fell in love with it. But I fell in love with the sport, and I've been doing it for 16 years now.
And mate, were you good at it straight away? I just step into it and just start knocking blokes out, or how did it work?
I'm still struggling to knock blokes out now, to be honest. But no, I was terrible early on. Like, up until the age of 17, I lost more fights than I'd won. So I was pretty useless for a good portion of the first 8 years, 9 years of my boxing career. So there's many reasons as to why I stuck at it. I think a big reason is my coach, Brian Levere. And it's, I think as a young person purely because I felt different to my brothers, I felt like I lacked a bit of confidence. You know, I lacked a bit of confidence. They were always sort of running at things head on. I was like a little bit more timid and stuff like that. And my coach, Brian Levere, at the age of 9, 10, 11, he just fed me with so much love and positivity. And not that my parents didn't do that, you know, but he fed me with so much love and positivity. And I think I wanted to keep going back even when I was losing and stuff like that because he made me feel special. And I think for every young person, for someone to make you feel special, it's so important. And I'm so grateful that I met him at the age of 9. And yeah, he's still my coach today, and I love him to bits. He's in his 70s, he's almost 80, so he's well and truly a veteran of the sport.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask about that because it does say, you know, met your coach at 9 years old, still your coach to this day, to be through everything with him. And I guess from my point of view, I had the same coach for the 15 years that I played footy too. So no change, no different. And it's like he is your second father figure in a way. He has been arguably your best mate from 9 through till now and will be forever, I dare say.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, like looking back on my life, I'm very introspective. I think about a lot of deep issues and stuff like that. And at the age of, I think it was around 6 or 7, my grandparents on my dad's side, who were pretty close up until that point, 6 or 7, they both just exited my life. And I didn't really, at that age, you don't really understand why. And I think as a young person, you start thinking, maybe I did something, or, you know, I'm not sure if that's what I was thinking, but I started like really questioning. And the next time I saw my grandma, I was on her deathbed. And then at the age of 14, my granddad, who lived up the road from me, was very close. I went up to his house in a hope to sort of like find out who my granddad was. I had no idea up until that point. And then for about 6 months, I was seeing him without telling my family, and I was catching up with him, and it was great. It was fantastic. Like I was starting to get to understand my granddad and who he was, and I think Brian for a long time actually was my granddad. Yeah. You mean I gave him that role, and he still is to this date. And the relationship with my dad's dad, my actual granddad, is pretty piss poor. Like we were seeing each other for 4 years, and then stuff happened, family issues. We all have them. And now we don't see each other. You know, but Brian sort of took on that role, and I'm so grateful that he did that. And I think that's what I was looking for in that moment. I was looking for a grandfather figure or a grandparent figure.
So without Brian, that his influence, where are you in life, in boxing?
Qualified plumber.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, probably. I'll be I'll be definitely a tradesman for sure. My old boy's a roof tiler.
Yeah.
And my brother's he's a plumber, so I work with my brother as a plumber. When I'm in Melbourne, I'm very useless at it, but I would say I'm a plumber.
Have you done your Have you done an apprenticeship or anything as such? Are you?
So I definitely have started one,
right?
But yeah, boxing for me, I always just had the philosophy in my head. If it works for boxing, it works for me. I don't really care what I was doing.
Yeah, right.
So it just jobs. It's pretty hard once you leave school to find a job that gives you flexibility. In order to leave work early, you've got to go to training or do training during the day, and that's why I worked with my family. So whatever my dad was doing, or whatever my brother was doing, they were going to give me the flexibility that I needed in order to chase my dreams. Because it's not like AFL. You guys get a decent chunk of money.
Yep.
Like I was broke for a long period of my life, and even up into the Olympics, like I owed people money. You mean I finished the Olympics. Luckily now, as a professional, we're earning a bit of money. It's definitely not. I'm not like making millions of dollars, but at least now I can pay the bills. So, for a long period of life, of my life, I was just working purely to get money so I could chase my dream,
Which was professional boxing.
which was the Olympics. Yeah.
So even in that period there between 8 or 9 through to 17, where you're losing more than you're winning, must have been some doubts. Like long way to the Olympics from there, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a natural part of, and some people crumble in those moments. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you start listening to the voices in your head. You're not good enough. I mean, the inferiority complex that starts playing out. I guess you keep losing, and of course that's a natural part. You've almost got to have that conversation. Are you really good enough? And I think every time I've had that conversation with myself, there's something else inside of me has always beaten it and just gone, "You are good enough," and keep going. And I don't know exactly where that stems from, but looking back on my life, there was so many people and so many things, situations, people, whatever it is, that just made me feel like I wasn't good enough. But I always believed that I was. And that's the reason as to why I just kept striving for things, kept pushing for things after losing so many fights up until the age of 18. Because I truly believed that I could be anything I wanted to be. And I think every human has that capability if you truly want to believe it. That's what I think anyway.
All right, so you get to 18. What changes? Or what do you put it down to? The improved performance, starting to win more fights?
That's a great question. No one's ever really asked me that. What did change? I think it's not like I was terrible. You know what I mean? It's not like I was losing these fights by miles and miles. I was always there. It's almost like you're just getting snubbed at the line, and consistently just kept happening, and it's really tested your resilience and tested your want and your desire. How much do you really want it? And you got to really bite down to the mouth guard and really show that you want something. But yeah, there was just a period where the first time I represented Australia at the Youth Commonwealth Games, 18 years old, I was captain of the team, so stoked. Lost in the fight. My first time representing Australia, I lost. I'm thinking, Jesus, that was heartbreaking. I love representing this country. Second fight representing Australia, lost again. That's when I started really thinking, I mean, that was probably the darkest point. Am I good enough? Like, am I really good enough to be Olympic gold medalist and be what I want to be? And I think that was a point where it's like, you either take it fully seriously, you take it serious. And that's when I started posting things, putting things up on my wall at home, motivational things, really started changing and like honing in on my mindset and stuff like that. Listening to people like David Goggins and so many other inspirational people. And that's when I started taking little bits and pieces from all those amazing athletes who have achieved amazing things.
Lightweight. I want to talk about lightweight. Now, I'm 100 kilos, maybe a little bit more. I reckon lightweight 60 kilos, correct?
Yeah, 61.
So 61, I would have been 13 or 14 the last time I was 61 kilos. Ben, you?
About 2 weeks ago.
Do you struggle with weight? Do you struggle with...
It's a push for sure, absolutely. And it's all part of it. Like every combat athlete that has to make weight, you want to push it a little bit, but there is a fine line between overdoing it and then injuring yourself, because the reality is when you dehydrate yourself, which is a lot of how boxers do it, your brain is the last thing to hydrate. So, and if you're constantly getting trauma towards the brain, you're going to have a short career, I think. So there's a fine line for me. Of course, you want to push it. You want to get to a point where it's like, this last kilo, have I really got it? And then for me, I've really knuckled in on what I think I am capable of losing for sure.
And for those listeners who aren't boxing fans, lightweight is to compare to people that they may know in the boxing world, is a Mayweather or a Pacquiao. I know you're... one of your favourite boxers is Loma from Ukraine, who was going to fight in Australia too, but has pulled out due to the wars and whatnot happening in Ukraine. Is that the weight these guys fight at? Yeah,
so Pacquiao was definitely there at one point, but he went up. So I think, if I remember correctly, Floyd Mayweather spent the majority of his career 2 weight classes above me, 66. And Lomachenko, Lomachenko, Kambosos, Australian unified champion. Lightweight's probably the strongest division at the moment, which is so exciting. It honestly, you have to really raise the ball of what I'm capable of, and seeing George Kambosos do something that Australians have never done before. For us young fighters, I'm only 24. It really sets the bar of what's possible, and as a young athlete, we've got to get that bar, reach it, and then try and surpass it as well. So it's an exciting challenge, I think, for us younger fighters.
Yeah, wow.
All right, so you're participating in probably the toughest physical sports, in my opinion, there is. But what about the mental side of it, mate? How do you prepare to go into these fights? What does that look like? Do you have a routine you follow? What's the hardest part about the job you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, prior to the
double barrel,
two good questions.
Sorry, Ruffy, you haven't made the cut.
Mate, wait. You've already got you're starstruck, so let's not talk about this. Right?
Very true. I'm a Hawkins supporter. For me, prior to the Olympics, that was the Olympics and Commonwealth Games were probably the 2 best preparations that I had. Great for external reasons, as in we went overseas, we're training with more so amazing athletes. So you're going to improve if you're around people who are better than you. So We're in America for the Tokyo Olympic camp, and then we're in the Philippines for the Commonwealth Games camp. And for me, what I did personally in those camps, the Olympic Games, I committed to something once a day, right? So in that sense, I didn't ejaculate for 3 months. I read a chapter of a book every day for 3 months, meditated every day, cold showers every day. I said things in the mirror before bed and in the morning as soon as I woke up, and there were things like, I am Olympic gold medalist, I am worthy of love, I am enough, I'm strong, I'm powerful. List goes on. There's about 6 or 7 words that I'd say. And then also during the day, this is a bit of a weird one. Everyone always took the piss out of me for this one, but there was alarms set on my phone 5 or 6 times a day. The alarm would go off, and I'd have to plant my feet, close my eyes, picture myself standing on the podium, and then say things in my head like, I am enough, I can do this, I am powerful. And I'd really visualize and picture myself. And it was interesting looking back on the Olympic prep, I could always picture myself on the podium, but I can never picture myself in the middle when it was doing my head in. I'd always open my eyes and reset, come on, I'll be in the middle. And when I opened it, yes, I could force it. But the initial response, I could see myself standing on the podium, but I can never see myself in the middle. And it's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. I'm very spiritual with my beliefs and stuff like that. But I'm not sure exactly what that is. But
Theory? You got a theory about that? What do you think?
I think personally, I don't know if I fully believe that I was good enough. Yeah, I think that's what like my logical brain has told me, in the sense of like versing Andy Cruz in the semi-final, the best fighter from Cuba. I beat myself before I even got in there. Ability-wise, I'm realistic. I'm very honest. I know he's better than me ability-wise, but once you get in there, mate, it's 9 minutes. It's whoever wants it more, really. I lost that fight before I even got in there. So
why do you say that? Why'd you lose the fight before you went in there?
I gave him so much respect, and respect that he deserves. He's by far, pound for pound, the best amateur in the world. Absolutely, he deserves that respect. He deserves that accolade. But at the same time, I'm no better, I'm no worse than him. I've put in just as much time and effort. I've got 2 arms and 2 legs, and I've also got 24 hours in a day, just like any other human. And why is he so much better than me? He's not. But I put that in my head because of the accolades and his past wins and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you learned. That's what you learned out of the experience. And what changed then in the aftermath of that?
For me, it's just been a massive focus on believing that I'm just as good as any other athlete, any other boxer that walks this earth.
And so that's behind the affirmations in the mirror. That's behind the visualization.
Absolutely.
Those other practices you talk about.
Yeah, which is super important. And who knows? As I said, who knows if it actually does work? Who knows? Visualizing and stuff like that.
What do you think?
I think it does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm 100%. Yeah, and it's one of those things. The placebo is proven. If you believe something, it's like, I've heard this thing, if you eat food that's bad, but you believe it's good, your body actually digests it. Look that up, honestly.
I bet you haven't tried that one, though.
Yeah. How interesting is that, though? That concept.
It feels like you're talking in the way that Ben talks to the playing group, because they do a lot of meditating, they do a lot of visualization, even in meetings before games and stuff like that. There's a lot of time where Ben will get us in the room and close your eyes, picture yourself out on the MCG, picture yourself playing your role, these type of things that the boys have learnt in the time that Ben's been here that you seem to have been doing for nearly your whole career.
That's a really good point, Jarry. Like, where did this stuff come from, mate? Like, is this all just self-driven, or do you have somebody advising you? Like, what's happened here?
We were super grateful. We're super blessed more so, and I'm very grateful that the Australian Institute of Sport would always have, I spent a lot of time there. They always had people coming in, so past Olympians. Someone who I really admire, Natalie Cook and Kerry Potthurst, 2000
volleyballers.
Beach volleyballers. Yeah. They're 2 people who I really get along with and really helps me with my mindset and stuff like that. So they did some amazing things prior to that win at the Olympics. Every time they went to the shop, they would buy something gold, whether it be a gold pen, gold soap, whatever it is. They would buy something gold. It was just constantly, they would wear gold. They would
Golden Rough chocolates.
Yeah, they were just so obsessed with that colour and that thought. And they did many other things. So they're a big one for me. And you just pick up little things from everyone. And anyone can say, people trash the phones all the time, especially the older generation. Yeah. But the best thing about the phone is all the information you want is on that thing. That's the best thing about it. So you don't need personal trainers. You don't need a psychologist. If you have the want and the desire, it's all on the phone. It's all there. And that's the best thing for me as well. Like, really conscious about who I follow, what I digest on social media, the stuff that I'm listening, hearing, the people I'm around as well. Like, that's a really conscious decision that I make every day, you know what I mean? And of course, I'm not perfect. You know, I make mistakes. I hang out with negative people as well, and I hear negative things, absolutely. But I constantly and consciously make a decision to listen to more positive things.
Mate, unbelievable discipline, though, to do this.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Is that parents? Is that your brothers? Is that you? Or is it the coach? What's the influence there?
I would definitely say my parents. My dad is one of the hardest, very old-fashioned with his belief system, and I love him for it in the sense he's been roof tiling since he was 14. He's close to 40 years. He's still on the roof to this day, and something about him, I never once saw him miss a day of work. And that's discipline in itself. He never once took a sick day.
So he's role modelling for you, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Not saying anything.
Yeah, and I think humans, we do what we see and we don't do what we hear. And I think that's a big thing for me. And I've always just watched my dad. He's hardworking, never really asked for help. That's a very old-fashioned trait, which is something that I'm trying to unlearn. But he's an amazing man and someone who I took a lot from.
So just the comment you made there, asking for help, is that... You're able to do that now?
In the process of it, mate. Yeah,
learning?
Yeah, in the process of it. It's one of those things. I must admit, I'll be completely honest. I'm very honest with how I think. But like, yes, there is value in asking for help. But then there's also some pride. And I see my dad, there's some pride in, hey, most of the time you'll get through it. Absolutely.
Sorting it out for yourself.
Absolutely. There's some pride in that. And there's some honour. And I see my dad for that. But then there also is... I also know sometimes he's very fragile, and that's because he doesn't ask for help. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there is, there's good side and bad side to any situation, and I'm trying my best when things are getting too much. You reach out and ask for help. You know, I've got a lot of good people around me who would always offer to help as well.
Support network. What's that look like for you now?
It's a big thing since the Olympics, mate. Everyone becomes your best mate. So it's really interesting to.
How many tickets requests have you had?
Yeah,
from stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting in the sense of like, hey, I'll be completely honest. We all love validation. It's a great feeling. People tapping on the back, people getting around you. Absolutely great feeling. But at the same time, just being really conscious that like they weren't there in 2017, 2016 when I had one of the worst years of my life. Yeah, they weren't there. Yeah, you know what I mean? And they're not like they're bad people, but just being really aware of who actually is in my circle. My mum, my dad, my family. I love them to bits. My partner, she's a beautiful lady, and of course my day one's the one who I was talking to before the podcast. He's running his first marathon, and there's a few other people, but my circle's pretty small. Who I know is real. Yeah.
And what about I'm most proud of, mate, in terms of your career so far? What's your greatest achievement, you reckon?
To be honest, like this is probably because it's fresh in my brain right now. It's not so much an achievement. It's almost like I had for the first time in my life realised a purpose, right? So I always never really thought about what my purpose was. Like I love the sport of boxing. I love the feeling it gives me, and of course I'm super driven and ambitious. But I was at Coles in my local area. And I walk in, I was only in there for 5 minutes, and the same car that was parked there, and I saw a guy in there as I was walking in, he's still parking there, and he had the window down. I'm thinking, this is a bit weird. And as I jumped in, he's like, you that boxer? And he was a little bit older, he was probably, I'd say around 60, and I could tell he was a little bit anxious and nervous, and then we just started talking, and in that moment I could see in his eyes, I started asking about his life, started asking about, did you ever try boxing, or what do you do for work? And I started just being really like curious about his life. And in that moment, I could just see how much that meant to him. And I think that's what I'm most proud of. I have so much power right now with my career and the impact that I have for other people. And it's like, that's what I'm most proud of, because I'm not shying away from that. And I'm trying my best to stand in that. And if I can inspire, especially I love the younger generation, if I can inspire that younger generation to do something different. You mean like Andrew Gaze inspired me when I was younger, or Shane Crawford or Grant Hackett, the list goes on. If they inspired me when I was younger, if I can do that to someone, doesn't matter what age, then I'm doing my job. And that's what I'm proud of.
At 24, that's pretty impressive to understand.
Pretty young guy yourself.
Yeah.
What's your message for those young people looking up to you? What advice would you give them? You're an aspiring young athlete, not necessarily boxer, but Somebody who's looking to achieve, what's the most important thing that you'd like to pass on to them?
I know. I think for me, it's you can honestly be whatever you set your mind to, and that's the reason. The thing that sort of got me a bit of notoriety at the Olympics was wearing nail polish, and the big reason behind that because I genuinely thought most of my life that I was playing a bit of a role, about what I felt pressure from my community, from my friends, from my teachers, from my family even, about how I was supposed to be or who I was supposed to be. And I started challenging that at the age of 16 and onwards. And I think I want to just show young people that you can be whatever you want to be. You don't have to fit the mold that your family pushes on you, your friends push on you, your society pushes on you. If a young female wants to start boxing, predominantly a male-driven sport, go do that. If a male wants to go do more performance arts, but everyone in the area is a tradesman or something like that, go do that. You don't have to explain anything to anyone. If it's something that calls you, something that drives you, something that's your inner calling, then that's all that matters. And I feel like we feel pressure to explain all the things that we do to other people because we feel this expectation. But you don't have to explain anything. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, you don't have to explain nothing. And that's the most beautiful thing, I think.
Can you mention the performance arts? Because this was, as well as a nail polish, there was a story about you with the ballet. And was that to try something, or was that also for footwork with boxing and whatnot there?
Yeah, so the big reason is Vasily Lomachenko did traditional Ukraine dancing. So any form of dance is so valuable for an athlete. And there's many things that it's helped me with my boxing for sure. But I've wanted to try ballet for the majority of my life. So was always really interested in movies like Center Stage, High School Musical, stuff like that growing up. I loved movies like that. Bring It On. I loved movies like that growing up. And yeah, for me, I always wanted to try it, but I was just a little bit scared to tell my old man and my two brothers that I wanted to do ballet or dancing. So finally, I started in 2019. And honestly, as I said, for any athlete, it's the most valuable thing you can do, dancing, coordination. And I think when I think about it as well, it's like one of the most natural ways that I think we can express. Think about when we're hunters and gatherers, how do we tell stories? Through dance, through song. That's how we communicated. And I think I feel that when I dance, and it's the most amazing feeling, I feel anyway.
Is it still part of your training today?
Absolutely.
What other... I mean, boxing's a completely different AFL. We have, physios, doctors, but the boxing, the different, the bikes, the pool that we have. What other different things that we may not know do you do?
So boxing's pretty old-fashioned in the sense the actual generic boxing, we all know it's skipping, speedball, punching mitts, sparring, whatever. But for me, I think one of the biggest things that's really helped me is I do uncomfortable challenges. So I've been doing it for about 3.5 years since the start of 2019, and I do a challenge once a month. And I've done things like 50 hours no talking, bloody big challenge for me. I love to talk. Wore makeup for a day, started ballet, had some really hard conversations with people like my dad or my brother, many others. 13 hours straight on a bike, that was a bloody hard one in quarantine. That was bloody tough. The list goes on, and each challenge I've learned something new about myself and about the world. And I just highly encourage any human, I think a big one as well, we were just talking about dance, a big one, if anyone's thinking of an idea that would challenge most people is a dance class. Unless you're a professional dancer, a dance class will make 90% of people scared and nervous and uncomfortable. And the feeling you get when you complete that dance class, you're honestly walking a little bit different, you're walking out, you're like, it's the most amazing feeling. And in that moment, you will feel just an ounce of growth, and that's what's really helped me grow as a person and also grow as an athlete.
But where does that motivation come from, and how can you, for people listening, you go to the gym, get a gym membership, last 3 weeks, and then it gets all too hard, or go swimming for a month, and then just it gets too cold. I'm going to pack that in. What advice can you give people listening to help their motivation to continue on with these things, the discipline required to do, to ride for 13 hours? How can a normal person do that?
That's, also another good question.
3 zip rough. No.
Let's see who gets a photo with it there.
I've never really thought about where my inner motivation comes from. I honestly, when I think about it, it's almost a bit of my identity, to be completely honest. As in, it would be weird if it was 5 o'clock and I wasn't at the boxing gym. I'd feel weird.
Feel weird?
Yeah, everything.
Feel like guilty, or do you?
A bit of everything. It's just like if I was sitting watching Deal or No Deal at bloody 5 o'clock during the week, I would be like, "What is going on?" I'd feel lost. I'd feel lost. So, but I think as humans, we're very routine based as well, and I've just made it my routine. So I think for me, it's not. I don't know if it's motivational or discipline, but it's just part of my routine, part of who I am, part of my identity as well. But I think for anyone out there to try and form something positive in their life is just like pick something small, pick something that's achievable. Like the feeling of like the feeling that I get every morning I wake up and I have cold showers. Been doing this whole year. It's starting to get a lot harder, especially in Melbourne. It's pretty freezing compared to Sydney. Yes. and that feeling at 5, 6 o'clock whenever you wake up of jumping in the shower and it's freezing cold. You don't want to do. I don't want to do that. No. Who realistically wants to do that?
Ridiculous.
But the feeling of accomplishment after you do that is amazing. You've already won. You've already won something in that moment. And whether it be you go for a 1K walk today, or 1K run, whatever it is, pick something small that's achievable and feel that. And then tomorrow, maybe up it or stick the same, whatever it is, you've still accomplished something. And then day by day, increase it. Increase your capacity to what you think is possible for yourself.
Yeah. So small, achievable targets, get the validation when you achieve those things, go again.
Absolutely. And I think it just I feel like a lot of people, coming back home has really made me aware of it. Like I love everyone in my area. They're all working class, they're all tradies. They all live for the paycheck to paycheck, week to week. The low socioeconomic area, and I just feel a lot of people are in just this negative feedback loop. They're just constantly, and it's just like if you can just pick one thing in that day and make a conscious decision to complete that one thing, it could rewrite and rechange something, and it could spark something in your brain, and then you see things differently and you're a little bit more positive, and then tomorrow you're a little bit more positive, and then just rewires what you actually think about yourself or think about your life.
So what's next? 24, first Australian boxer to win a medal in 33 years. You've done the Commonwealth Games, tick, gold medal. Medal at the Olympics, tick. Turned professional, 3-0 currently. What's the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years look like for Harry?
Yeah, the next 12 months I want to aim at getting world rated, and then the next 2 years aim to be fighting for world titles. That's in the boxing. But for me, I've been dating a girl for 9-10 months now, and that's probably for me, prior to dating her, it was probably one of the biggest challenges. I feel as a relationship, I don't know if this is just me, but it was one of the hardest areas for me. Someone who focused so hard on being successful as an athlete and felt I was holding on to my dreams so hard, and anyone else come to mess around with it, I was like, oh, you're ruining it. And the challenge of that relationship, and then also the beauty and the bliss of that relationship, that's a big focus for me. So I'm really committed to growing as a person, growing in a relationship, because I want to spend the rest of my life with that person. So that's a big focus for me, because I always thought that maybe it's a bit of a distraction having a partner and stuff like that. But if someone who, Kelly Slater or Serena Williams, someone who they have kids and they have partners, if they can do it, then I can do it too. So that's a big focus for me, is committed to my relationship and also committing to myself and growing as a person. Yeah.
Wow. I'm pretty impressed, mate. That's pretty cool. Very, very good story.
Thanks, mate. It's because I'm full of shit.
Big fun. I knew about you, but I didn't know this much, and hearing you speak and stuff like that, it's pretty cool for a 24-year-old to have been through so much and then express yourself in the way that you do. It's pretty impressive.
Mate, do you ever get flat?
Oh, of course.
Do you ever lose motivation to do all this stuff?
Absolutely.
How do you get through that?
Because I'm not going to lie, I'll be in that moment right now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
We're right.
You mean right
in this second.
Yeah.
You guys are just really rubbed off.
Last half an hour has been real flattening.
But for me, I'm really conscious and really aware of after comp. So naturally, I think that happens for athletes after a season. Maybe I know you play week to week, but boxing's a little bit different. So
you had a fight. How long ago? Sorry, was it
a week and a half?
1 week. Okay, just over a week. Just over a week.
Yeah, so a week and a half ago, and just I'm in that period of who am I? What's next? Of course, I'm in that flatness right now, but I'm getting a lot better at navigating that, and something that I see psychologists, I see a life coach, I see people who help me navigate these things as well.
How do they help you, mate? What do they do?
I'm not going to lie, I feel like they're a bit of a sounding board. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely, and also as well, my life coach, Waf, he's got this amend program. It's majority for males. He lives up on the Gold Coast, but have a great relationship with him, and he's helped me a lot with relationships. And a big thing that he's helping me with this post-comp lull or post-Olympic blues or whatever it is a 3-week out plan. We spend so much time focused on the 10, 12 weeks prior to a comp. What are you doing? And then the 3-week out plan. What does a 3-week out look like? And committing to that as well, just as hard as you commit to that 10, 12 weeks prior to a comp. So that's been a big focus, and we've really knuckled down the specifics, as in planting my feet in the ring, taking 3 conscious breaths just as the fight finishes, going into my room, spending 5 minutes with my partner locked away in a everyone's coming to you, everyone's shaking your hand, everyone wants to be around you in that moment, but taking 5 minutes with yourself and whoever you choose there, and it's my partner, to sit, whether we talk, hold, whatever you feel called to do. And then the next day, what are you doing? What does it look like? Get off your phone. There's certain things that I've put in place for myself. So that has helped this one especially be not as low as usual, but of course, naturally, it is still a bit lower than normal. Yeah.
So that sounds like it's a lot about getting routine and structure into a time that would normally not have much routine or structure.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bit, sort of do what you want because you've done your performance.
Yeah.
You've achieved what you wanted to achieve in the fight.
Yeah.
Now we're just turning everything off, but you don't do that by the sounds of it now.
Yeah, well, this is the first prep that
Right,
I'm implementing that now. So I'm definitely not fully there yet, but I'm an extremist. Anything I do, I think a lot of high performers are. We're extreme with what we do, and for me, I'm all in, or I'm not in it at all. So it's hard to, like, when the performance is done, you've done your job, you've completed your mission. It's like it's
What's
hard.
next?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And Tim Grover, he's working Michael Jordan, and he's a great man. He's got the Relentless. What a book that is, and the best athletes that he coached, every morning they would wake up after winning a championship and they'll be like, what's the next win? And I think it's just, I've got to almost ask myself, what's the next win? And the win could be just delivering more stability for myself or whatever it is, but I've just got to be more conscious about what the win is the day after a comp.
So the win isn't necessarily the next boxing match.
No.
The win's not beating that opponent, is it? It's the next day, achieving something or being something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and a big focus for me, mate, like, I love the sport of boxing, and I love the feeling it gives me, but at the same time, I'm more obsessed with finding out more about myself and becoming a good person and a good human. I did many things when I was younger, when I was unaware, that I was not proud of. So if I can change, and especially I'm going to have kids, my partner's 9 years older than me. She wants kids soon, so I'm going to be having kids in the next 3-4 years probably. I want to make sure I'm the best dad I can be. That's more important to me than my boxing career, I'll tell you that right now. Yeah. A big focus for me is just making sure when I have kids that I'm a good dad, and I'm sure I will be. But yeah, just making sure that I'm not passing on things to them that is negative.
So, mate, interested in the we work in a team environment. So we've got 45 different personalities, 45 different types of motivation required. You're an individual in an individual sport. How can we? I want your advice here. How can we help some of our players adopt some of these practices and philosophies that you hold to help us be a better team? Any advice?
Oh, don't say it. Do not say it. If you say good question,
he's pretty on pressure here. It's not a good question. No,
We'll cut this out. If it doesn't work out, all right?
I honestly, so one of my mates just signed with Melbourne Storm, so he's in the reserves team. And something that I loved, and that's a massive organisation. They're one of the best NRL teams at the moment. And they made, I don't know if St Kilda does this, but they made him work Monday to Friday as a tradesman.
Right, yeah.
And it just gives you, like you guys, what the minimum wage would be, 89? I don't know what it is, but it's well and truly above the average wage. Yeah. It's like there's a sense of entitlement, there's a sense of potential arrogance maybe, and naturally that happens. We're all human, but I just think if you can just show that whether that be through community engagement, whether that be, I don't know what it is, but show that they're human just like the rest of us. You know what I mean? And we're all just human. And there's people out there who can't lace up a boot, can't kick a football, and they're 14 years old because they're in the cancer ward. Like there's just so much more than just sport. And if you can just make your players see that, I don't know, maybe they would just have more of appreciation for every time they get on that field. And however you show that, I just think that's such a valuable thing. I lived in the Philippines for 3 months, slept on the ground. You know what I mean? There was no bed next to boxers, and every morning, they're the best boxers in the world, I'll tell you that right now. And every morning they wake up and they're just so happy and so playful and happy. And the first week, I won't lie, the first week I was there going, geez, this sucks. Of course, naturally, like coming from a place like this, like we're so lucky to live here. You know, but then you just get used to it. And I just think that it just made me see things so differently about this world. And every time I chuck on the gloves, I'm just grateful to be out there, just happy to be out there. And win, lose or draw, of course, my ego and my pride and everything, I want to win. Absolutely, I'm super competitive. You know, but I'm just grateful to lace up the glove. And if you can transfer that to your players, I think that's such a valuable thing to have for a player.
Well, Harry, we're very thankful to have you on the Long Game podcast. I'm blown away, so I dare say our listeners will be too. But thank you very much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it and wish you all the best in the future.
Thanks, Ruffy. Great question.
Thank you, brother. Ben, post Harry Garside interview, what did you think of the great man?
So what I thought of is what I was doing when I was his age.
Oh,
and I could not scratch myself really. That took every ounce of sort of ability that I had. And I compare Harry to me or some other people, you know, I know
Players.
that are 24 years old. It's like just an unbelievable human being, really.
yeah.
Everything he's trying to do, everything he's done, all right, so his history obviously, but then everything that he still wants to do and his perspective on life and, you know, his love of family and friends and competing and, yeah, just what an
Imagine if he was
guy.
an AFL captain. You would follow him and you would walk out feeling pretty big.
We didn't
knowing
ask
that
him
he
about
was
his
captain.
footy career.
Nah, well,
I should have asked that. I didn't even think of that.
we don't really need to when he's got an Olympic medal and Commonwealth Games medals. And
We're always looking for talent.
hopefully in a few years we're buying his pay-per-view and giving him money each week, knowing that we're watching him in big fights.
True. Your takeaways from Harry?
I mean, you saw me halfway there. I was sitting there with my jaw open half the time listening to the stuff he was saying. I was just like a little kid taking it all in. So I felt like we're on 60 Minutes, listening to a story there. But yeah, for a kid he's not a kid, he's 24 years old, but for his just comfort in where he is in life and how he goes about his own business is, pretty special. So I'll be definitely following him more so now because of obviously meeting him and seeing what he's been able to do, and just hope that he, hopefully one day we can say we interviewed the an Australian world champion.
He knows who he is.
Yeah,
he knows who
Yeah,
he
that
is.
yes, correct.
Which where he's going, not concerned about what others might think.
He's already 4 or 5 steps ahead of his opponents that he's going to fight.
Yeah, ahead of most of us when we're 24. I reckon.
Ben, you've spoken about our players and some of the different what's the word?
Oh, skills, really.
Yeah, different skills that they can help better themselves. And we heard Harry say some in our chat, visualization, meditating, these type of things that you try and get the boys or open their eyes to. Yeah. It's pretty amazing that he's already doing it at 24 and consistently.
Yeah, and it sounds like so much of it is self-driven.
Yeah,
he's clearly a very curious guy. He's interested in improving himself, improving his performance. But those techniques he uses, as you know, in particular meditation, visualization, those affirmations, that's the stuff our players are doing as well. And there's different levels of engagement with that, different levels of buy-in. But he's a guy, and he's a young guy. He's 24. My God, he's using these things and using them consistently. And watch his, an unbelievably demanding and brutal sport, physically, but the mental side of things, as he spoke about, equally as important. And he's invested in these skills, and it's clearly paying off.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the latest step of The Long Game, don't forget to subscribe, leave a kind review, and tell all your friends.
Check out the episode's show notes to learn more about today's long game guest and where to follow them, as well as other resources, including how to get involved. And remember, breathe in and breathe out.